Hey everybody, so in this video I wanted to talk about my three favorite Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup victories. In my lifetime I've been lucky enough to see 8 of them. Two I sort of remember. I remember mostly this guy here. Oh, let me turn this way. This guy here, Frank Mahovlich in 71 and 73 was a huge part of their victories, their win. And Ken Dryden, of course. I think 71 was his first. He was a rookie, having played only 6 regular season games, and he just was lights out in the playoffs. So I remember those things, but not like, emotionally too much about the wins. And these three that I've got up on the board, they definitely have special reasons. They all three of them have a special reason why, for me, they're my favorites. And I guess we'll get right into it. So these are my favorite Stanley Cup wins that I was lucky enough to see for the Montreal Canadiens. And let's start out with number one, or number three, I should say. So number three was the 1975-1976 victory over the Philadelphia Flyers. At the time, Montreal hadn't won the Cup in 2 years, which wasn't a lot when you think of it for most teams, but for Montreal, not winning in 2 years was a big deal. If they didn't win the Cup every year, that season wasn't considered really a success. That's how we thought in Montreal. And also, the Philadelphia Flyers were playing a style of hockey I didn't like. Not that I didn't like, fighting didn't bother me, but I mean, they were just fighting and penalties and intimidation and dirty play, and it was goon hockey, and didn't like it. Not that they didn't have any talented players on their teams, but it was goon hockey overall, and we didn't like it. And it's a good thing that Montreal beat them, because things might have looked different for the following years, as teams would have tried to emulate what the Flyers were doing instead of Montreal. So let's look at some points on the season that was. Like I said, no Cup in 2 years. They swept Chicago in round one, and they beat the New York Islanders in 5 games. So when you consider that they swept the Flyers, that's only one loss in the 13 games they played up to that year. 12-1 in 13 playoff games. The only team that year to lose only one game. The only team, I think, that made it past the first round that didn't lose 5 games. So it was like 4 games better than every other team that made it past the first round, obviously. And Flyers were looking for their 3rd win in 3 years. The Flyers had won the 2 previous years. If they would have won the Cup this season, they would have been a dynasty. 3 years in a row is definitely a dynasty. So they were looking for that, and we just didn't want that to happen. It was intimidation versus talent and skill. So intimidation versus that's the Flyers, just in a very intimidating team. Like I said, they either beat you up or cheat you to the win. Just a horrible. I didn't like the Flyers up until recently. I never liked the Flyers, and it was against Montreal, who had a ton of talented players. They had skill galore. I want to say something else, but out their butts, and they could skate and shoot and score, and their goaltender was great, and the defense was great, and it was a great team. So it was intimidation versus talent and skill. And I like I just said, if the Flyers would win, it would kind of change the NHL, because then the other teams would want to emulate how the Flyers are winning. It's like that all the time, especially when a team, they would have been a dynasty with that win. You get a team that is a dynasty, the other teams want to emulate whatever they're doing. It's working, and that would have changed the league, and it would have gone to worse goonery. There was enough goonery already, and it would have gotten worse. Montreal swept the Flyers, and what was great about that is Montreal was the better team as far as regular season. They won the league in the regular season, so they had the playoff home ice advantage. So in sweeping the Flyers, they beat them for the Cup in Philadelphia, which was really great. I love that. Guy Lafleur gets the game winner at 14:18 of the 3rd period, obviously of Game 4. Guy Lafleur, my favorite player. I think it was his 2nd season of the 50 goals a season, 6 times in a row, and just my favorite player. And he got the game winner. It was really great to see. Let's see. The only kind of down thing for the series was that Reggie Leach. he wins the Conn Smythe Trophy. He had 19 goals and 5 assists in the playoffs, and he's the only one, the only forward in the history of the Stanley Cup to win the Conn Smythe on a losing team. The other 4 are goalies. There were 2 before him and 2 since him. And that's it. Only 5 players have ever won the Conn Smythe Trophy, and their team didn't win the cup. There was something I left out of here, too, was Bernie Perron was injured. So this made a big difference in that I think if Bernie Perron was in nets, I don't know. Montreal, I would hope, would still have won the cup, but I doubt it would have been in a sweep. I very highly doubt it would have been in a sweep, and it might have been a totally different outcome. So, yeah, big thing here is Bernie Perron was injured. Goalie that I like, even from a bad team, I mean, like one of the only Flyers, probably the only Flyer at the time that I liked. He was a really good goalie. So that was the reason why I love that. The big thing was they took out the Flyers, the team that everybody hated, and Montreal went in there and swept them. And so it was significant. Yeah, they went on to win 3 more Stanley Cups in a row, and they're not on my list only because, yeah, at that point we expected it, and there was nothing like this where they took out a team that everybody hated. So that was the big thing here. That's why it's number 3. Now, number 2, 1985-86. If you look on the board there, you might say I have a more recent bias, although that's not the most recent, but these 2 are. But there was a reason for it, because in 1986, first of all, 6 seasons without a cup. We hadn't seen 6 seasons without a cup in the longest time. I don't remember. At that point, I don't think I hadn't lived through a point where they had 6 seasons and no Stanley Cup. This was the first time in my life. Not expected to go far. They weren't. They had finished the season with 87 points, and they weren't really expected to have this win. They were going into the playoffs with a rookie goalie. I don't know if he was back up at that point or he was the starter, but a rookie goaltender in Patrick Roy. And like I said, 87 points. We weren't a top team. The big team. Now, what helped here was the big teams got knocked out early. Edmonton got knocked out by Calgary in the, I want to say the first, but probably the second round. And who are the other teams? Philadelphia got knocked out in the second round by New York Rangers, and Washington in the first round by the Rangers. Rangers took out 2 of the top teams. And so that was a big help here, is that the big teams got knocked out. It opened up the road for other teams, not just Montreal, but it opened up the path to a possible victory for, teams that didn't think that they had much of a chance. And it worked for Montreal here. Hartford, second series, so it was round 2. Hartford pushes Montreal to Game 7, overtime, in a 2-1 victory for Montreal there. But imagine that, 2-1 in an important game like that, and in overtime. We thought, that's it. Hartford's going to take us out, and it really looked like it. It was. I remember that game on the edge of your seat in overtime. It was 1-1. You could lose. Next goal wins, right? It's overtime, and yeah, I'll never forget that series. Hartford. And Hartford had won the series before, obviously, and it was their first playoff series victory. Hartford, and their only ever in their existence, till they went to Carolina, obviously. Patrick Roy versus New York Rangers in Game 3. It was, I don't remember the score. It was I don't know if this was an overtime, because I think that was an overtime victory. Patrick Roy, for about 5 minutes, it seemed, New York just threw everything at him, including the kitchen sink. He stopped everything. There was one sequence where must have been 5, 6, 7 shots, something like that. Boom, 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 like in a really short 30-second span of time. He was all over the place. Probably the best little bit of goaltending I had ever seen, most acrobatic, and under that stress that I had ever seen at that time, up until that time. Patrick Roy. And I wrote here, wow, because that's what we all said was, wow. We had never seen anything like that. At least I hadn't. Rookie Claude Lemieux, another rookie. I think it was, I didn't check, I should have checked on this. Had 10 goals, including a few game winners, a couple in overtime. He was awesome. He was pesky. He was breakaways and scoring really important goals. And Claude Lemieux, as a rookie, that's where he emerged, was in this playoffs. Claude Lemieux. Yeah, he went on to have a good, solid career. A real pesky guy. Um, kind of what is it? Kind of player like a Brad Marchand type, not nearly as ratty as Brad Marchand, but that type of player. But with talent as well, he could score timely, important goals. Brian Scrudlin's game winner in versus Calgary in Game 2, 8 seconds into overtime. I'm not sure. I think it's still a record. I know it's Montreal's record. I don't know if it's a league record, but it's right up there. At the time it was. So Brian Scrudlin, 8 seconds into overtime. I remember at the time, I think I was sitting down. I don't know if I had, I'm pretty sure I saw it. We were a few of us watching the game, and a couple people were still getting their stuff in the kitchen or whatever, or one in the back, whatever, and missed it because it happened so fast. It's like you didn't have time to pretty much sit down to get comfortable to watch the overtime, and he scored. So that's something. Mats Naslund tied for third in playoff scoring with 8 goals and 11 assists for 19 points. I think he was tied with 4 other players for the 19 points, but still, one of them was Wayne Gretzky. So Mats Naslund tied for playoff points, which was Mats Naslund was just a great player. So you talk about small guys. I want to say he was probably 5'9"-ish, somewhere around, maybe a little higher. But small guy with tons of talent. Just a great player, Mats Naslund. And our rookie, Patrick Roy, our rookie goalie, he wins the Conn Smythe. He ends up with 15 wins, 193 goals against, and a 923 save percentage. So great numbers. Those are great numbers today, which numbers today are much better. Those were great numbers, especially in the playoffs, and it kind of signaled that this kid was going to be a great goalie, great money goalie, which he turned out to be, because when it was the worst pressure, he was at his best. So that's number 2. Was a great series. Also because, like I said, they weren't expected to win at all, and you got Patrick Roy and his great rookie, rookie season, but as a rookie having a great playoffs. Claude Lemieux with his fantastic playoffs as well as a rookie, and like I said, Brian Scrudlin's 8-second overtime goal. So yeah, it was a great season for a great playoffs for that. Number 1 for me was the last one because of those 10 overtime victories. That was an amazing run. You were on the edge of your seat every damn game, it seemed. They had a lot of great things happen, and also weren't really expected to win. They had a better team than an 86 win, but they still weren't expected to win. And we had also 6 years of no cup. So between 86 and 93, it was 6 years again of no cup. Not something we wanted to live through again, but it got worse after that, right? It was also their 34th finals appearance, so 34 times in the finals. Since this was their 24th win, if you take that 34, so they're only 10 times in the finals that they didn't win, that they appeared there up to this point. Not expected to contend. They had 102 points. It was against they won in the cup against Wayne Gretzky, which is always nice when you can beat one of the greatest players to ever play the game. They opened with 2 losses to the Nordiques, and it didn't look good. And we figured, okay, this is not going to be the season. The opening 2 games, it's not good. And then they only lost 2 more for the rest of the playoffs. So they only had 4 losses the whole playoffs. And they had, from that game, the 2 losses, the next 11 games, they won 11 straight. And they didn't lose again till Game 4 against the Rangers. I don't remember the series. Whoever the third series was against. The Islanders. Game 4 against the Islanders, they lost. So 11 straight. They swept Buffalo, all 4-3 scores, so 4 games, 4-3, 3 of them in overtime. So Buffalo gave them a good run for it, I'll tell you, but it's those overtime victories. By that point, once they were done Buffalo, it was like, okay, they're going into overtime. They're going to win. They're going to win. They're just going to win. You're still on the edge of your seat and worried, but every time they'd win, you're more sure that they're going to win. Let's see. Patrick Roy, his wink against in the finals against the Kings. I think it was Patrick Sundstrom. I think it's like there, Sundstrom. And it's funny because in the Rangers series in '86, then they were fantastic. That's the same guy that was playing for the Rangers at the time. And I wonder if that's not a part of the reason why he winked at him. He says that it was a wink to signal to them, see, that didn't get past me. Nothing's getting past me. Nothing is getting past me. Come on, give it your shot. That's what he said in an interview in some documentary I saw. But I also wonder, because I noticed in rewatching these things, some highlights, that Patrick Sundstrom was playing for the Rangers at the time. I think it's the same guy. Anyways, I'm wondering. So that wink, that's iconic. You see the highlights of it. It's just an iconic wink. I love it every time I see it. Makes my heart beat. I know I'm weird. If I hear the Hockey Night in Canada theme song, I also go crazy. My heart goes. McSorley's illegal stick. I don't remember what game it was. It was game 4? Because it was a 5-game series. I think it was game 4. McSorley's illegal stick. He should have known better. He should have known to take that stick away in an important game. I think they were in overtime or in the third period. You don't do that. You don't go into the third period in a very important game with tied, I think, at that point, and you have an illegal stick. It's a mistake. Bad mistake, and it cost them the series, maybe. I remember, I want to say Rocky DiPietro, Paul DiPietro, I think his nickname was Rocky, and a guy I don't really like as a player anymore, but Gilbert Dion, Marcel Dion's brother, they were a really good pair. Really good pair in this playoffs. I don't remember DiPietro doing much after this. And Dion, within a couple seasons, was traded in the Leclerc Desjardins trade to Philadelphia for Mark Recchi. But I remember them. They were really good in this, especially in the finals. Damphousse, Vinny Damphousse finished 4th in scoring for the playoffs. 11 goals, 12 assists for 23 points. Excuse me. Didn't have time to pause for that. Kirk Muller. He's not on the board. Kirk Muller, one of my favorite Habs. Go Muller. That's what my wife used to say when we're playing Sega hockey or something. We'd all play it as the Habs. We'd pretend we're the Habs, and Muller was always the guy scoring. It was great. So that's my number one favorite, even though it was the last one, most recent, but still 27 years ago. So it's not like it's that fresh in my mind. So there you go. What do you think? Let me know what you think. That's the video. If you liked it, give a thumbs up. I know it's a little bit long. Let me know what you think. What are yours if you ever got to see any live? And I'm talking, I got to witness these live, not on playback. I watched all of them live. So let me know if you're old enough to have seen any of these, what your favorites are. And if you never got to see one, still, let me know what your favorite Stanley Cup victory by Montreal is in the comment section. That's down below. And if you haven't subscribed or rang the bell yet, that's down there too. You can do that. That'll get you your daily fix of Blue, Blanc, Rouge. And you can hit that join button if you want to be a member and take one of the membership packages and all the perks that go along with that. And there'll be some new videos going up. There's one there already. And there'll be a new membership video going up soon. Members only. And that's it. So please, everyone, stay safe. Thank you for watching. And I think that's it. So peace out. I'll see you on the live stream and next video. Bye-bye, y'all.